Only.
Sorry, YouTube's over there.
All good.
You're up.
All right, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Welcome to Vigilante Podcast, episode number 33. This is going to be a great episode. We're fortunate enough to have Arias Crane with us, police cadet. He's training in the academy right now to become a member of the police force. So we're very thankful that he's able to come on and talk to us. I was fortunate enough to know Arias from football back in high school. We got to meet back then. He's always been an incredible dude. There's always kind to everybody else. So never seen him be rude to anybody else, any others in the school while we were going those 3 years. So it was very interesting to see how he moved when I was in a state where I was still growing at that time and wasn't always the kindest to everybody, you know. So it was cool, and it's a blessing to be able to reconnect with him and see where he's going now and see what his story was. So if you're all right, I mean, for the listeners here soon, we'll dive into your story if that's cool with you.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
And then what would you say? Oh, and then one thing as well is eat the mic is what we like to call it. So
get close.
So you got to pull it up to you. However you need to do it, that's fine.
Yo.
Get comfortable, but just so because it'll pick it up. And if I'm talking to you here, it's different now if I'm talking to you here.
Definitely. I can hear the difference.
So we'll make sure that's all taken care of. That's all good. But tell me a little bit about where you started. I mean, because I know you've been able to grow so much, especially the last time we connected and spoke. You're a new man.
Yeah.
You know?
That's an easy way to put it. I think, you think back to high school and life is so different. You know, it's so easy compared to an adult life, but yet so challenging.
Right.
And everyone's going through their own thing, you know. So my biggest thing was I don't know what you're going through or what you're going through, you know, and you could be having the worst day of your life while I'm at my best, right? So, you know, just sharing the smiles and the hugs, man, that's step one, right?
Yeah.
Shortly after high school, though, life kind of took a twist, you know, like you get out in the real world and it's not what you thought. It was my first year of college, you know, and I was getting my EMT license because I wanted to be out there helping people, you know, and, you know, I worked so hard, I get my license, and then I start kind of thinking of different things I want to do in life. And you start developing some family issues, you know, stuff going on in the house. And then that really gets my wheels spinning, you know, because I'd been dating someone for a really long time.
Yeah.
It was coming up on 4 years, and I decided to end that relationship to focus more on me and my family, because my family was at a time, a lot of my siblings, and I've got a big family. There's 8 of us, you know, 8 siblings.
What number are you in the list?
I'm number 4.
Okay.
And one of my sisters was going through a really hard time.
Yeah.
Very, very depressed, and kind of getting points for, you know, self-harm and suicidal things. And I started to notice that I was so developed in my little world that I started missing those things. I was neglecting being a part of a family.
What things do you mean? Just like little cues or signs that she was in a tough spot? Or
yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you become an adult, you instantly start thinking, okay, where is it I want to be in 5 years? Where is it I want to be in 10 years? And you start focusing, okay, this is the career I want to develop. This is where I want to go. This is who I want to be. You know, I was actually reading a Steve Jobs quote today on his, you know, last span of life. He talks about you can have all the money in the world.
Right.
But as I'm laying here in my deathbed, that's not what matters.
Right.
My family, my friends, those I care about, those who I inspire, those who I motivate. And that's been one of my big things is, especially when I got into the fitness world, it was, I want to be out there making people feel hope, feel motivated and inspired to know that there's a potential out there. You could be hitting the dirt or eating sand right now, but you know, those challenges are set up to make you that one step stronger, that one step higher. And I felt me as a brother, I'm very protective of my 6 sisters, right? And when I started to understand and see that she was hurting in those ways and how I missed that totally, that really started eating at me. And I decided hey, I need to pull back. I need to focus on my family.
Yeah.
And myself, because there was traits of myself I started noticing that I didn't like.
Yeah.
So I had to seriously turn around and look at myself in the mirror and say, Arias, not where do you want to be in 5 years? Who do you want to be in 5 years?
Beautiful transition.
It's no longer about what it is I want to achieve necessarily, but who I want to become, because who I am is what's going to be what I become, right? Or where I go in life. And that's totally been playing out for me. And I've seen that over and over again. And it is hard transition, because right after I got out of that relationship, later that year, I got into a very serious car accident. And I was dating who's my wife at the time. And I just remember driving home, and you see these headlights coming at me, and they're swerving all over the road.
Yeah.
And it's late. It's probably midnight or 1 in the morning. And as I'm getting close to them, they cut over into my lane, and I yanked the wheel off the side of the road. I'm going 50 miles an hour, smack this metal beam. And I don't remember anything until I started waking up, and I'm out there alone, right? And I just couldn't stop thinking to myself, like, how lucky am I that because in EMT school, you talk about all the time, sometimes it's just the little accidents that can kill somebody.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the high impacts. And that's what really hit it home for me. That it was very humbling. It was a very challenging time for me. That was probably where I was at the worst, because not only am I going through all these self-realizations on not being happy with who Arias is or what it is I stand for, because I'm out there preaching all this good stuff, but yet not living it myself. So that's kind of where my life took a hit. And shortly after that, took a couple weeks really, because I was eating sand right at the moment. Like whether it was I was so frustrated or upset about what's going on, or like, why is this happening to me? Like, I wanted to make something of myself in the fitness world. I wanted to motivate and inspire people that this isn't just something you go and lose 20 pounds. This is a lifestyle change. It's something that you can take with you to your deathbed.
Because you were competing in bodybuilding, correct?
Yeah. So I started competing in bodybuilding, and it totally changed my mindset, even on life itself, because a lot of the same concepts that happen in the gym, you can take outside of the gym.
Right.
And that was the biggest thing for me. I remember there was a trainer I'd always watch, and fitness was about him for a little while, but then it turned into this thing where he's like, man, I can help other people feel this great. Like, you have all these people coming to you and they're asking you for help and stuff. And at first, I'm like, I'm doing this for me. Right. And then one day, man, it was like deer in the headlights. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity for me to not just teach and educate people on the importance of living healthy, but how much better your life quality is after that, and how much better you feel about yourself. Getting up in the morning is not so hard. And when people start to take the advice and make a lifestyle change and not just go and do it for losing the weight is a side effect of working out and eating healthy. It's all the other stuff that's important to me, I guess. That was my big perspective on fitness. Was I was like, man, I want to be a trainer. I want to be out there. I want to be coaching people, because there's a lot of trainers out there that just eat money. They just, people come and they pay and they pay and they pay and they never get anywhere. Right. And that's a big problem in the fitness industry. And that's where people get the stigma of, oh, trainer, or, oh, they're just junkies in the gym. Right. But the job of the trainer isn't to take that money. The job of the trainer is to teach you, to educate you. So that way, a month into your training, you don't need your trainer. You can then go on and do your own and take this lifestyle and take it home with you and build a day. And eating healthy is a big self thing. Like, you have to be very motivated yourself.
Right.
But once you start doing that, next thing you know, you're performing better at work. You're noticing things better around your house, or things you may not have noticed before because you just were kind of feeling miserable or not happy with yourself or the way you look. And to me, that was the biggest thing to get out of fitness. At first, it was all about, like, I wanted that first place trophy. I remember going to my first bodybuilding show, and I'm sure you remember Kyler Roberts, right?
Yeah.
He gets up there, man, Sorry, my voice goes high when I get excited.
No worries. No, you're all good.
Yeah, so I go to this bodybuilding show, right? And I weigh 120 pounds, 125 pounds. I'm 5'6" maybe.
Yeah.
I was this tiny little kid trying to play high school football, and it wasn't working. And I just remember going to that show, and goosebumps the whole time, man. Like, it's kind of like an art. It's a sport, but it's an art, and you see these people get up there and what they've been able to do with themselves. And you know, and I grew up with Kyler, so I kind of seen him through the years, and I'm like, man, that's going to be me next year.
Yeah.
And throughout the year, you know, I went from weighing 120, 125. I got up to 185 before I started dieting. I remember wearing hoodies all the time because I didn't want to do what at school, knowing what I was doing. Because I don't know, people kind of tease bodybuilding as a sport, and I wasn't very comfortable with it. But then coming back senior year, it was different for me because I was proud of what I was doing and what I was accomplishing. And my goal was that show. And then when the show came and it was over, you know, that was a big rush. That was a big excitement thing for me. And but then it was, okay, now what do I do next?
Right.
You know, is the show the end? You know, no, man, that's the beginning.
Right.
That's the start of something great that you can go and take, you know, and a lot of my family member aren't into fitness.
Yeah.
They're just not something that excites them like it does me, I guess. But then my dad starts asking me like, hey, can you take me to the gym with you? Can we do workouts? Can we do this? Can we do that? And next thing you know, I'm like trying to help them understand, you know, going to the gym 1 hour a day isn't the hard part. It's what you put on your plate the other 23 hours of the day, right? So just being able to take what I've learned and from my trainers and turn around and be able to use it. That's the trainer's job, you know? And so I guess to loop that back into what we were talking about, when I had that car accident, I lost like 20, 30 pounds. Yeah, I felt like the skinny kid again, you know, and I was putting on unhealthy weight because I'm stuck in bed for 6 weeks. You know, I can't do anything.
You have a picture of your car crash on your Instagram, don't you?
I do.
What's your Instagram name?
It's just Arise Crane.
Can you spell it for the listeners for us?
Yeah, it's ARYUSCRANE. Better make sure that's right, but
perfect. Yeah, no worries.
I like what you said. I want to go back to, you say when you're doing fitness and training people, you're trying to teach them to just go off on their own and know how to do it. I teach karate, and I do the same thing. My goal is to teach them how to teach themselves.
That's awesome.
You give them the tools. Basically, I just want to give them the tools, and then they can build what they need to build with it.
Exactly. It's like, I guess a good thing to compare that to is I can come and give you all the tools you need to have a nice yard, and I can put them in the shed for you, and I can organize it nicely. But you're the one that has to go out and grab those,
right?
And
100%
take it and make the good yard or the nice garden. And the same thing applies fitness, karate, work in general, right? You know, it's a big thing at my job before law enforcement was there was someone there that I really looked up to, mentored me and teach me and coached me. So then I could turn around and start doing these on my own and performing them well on my own. Same thing. That's the best part about fitness, man, is you take all these simple, you know, processes, right?
And then principles.
Yeah, you take the principles from here, and then you start thinking, you know, because a lot of life is mindset, right? It's all how you look at things. So if you take it from here, and then you're like, man, I'm going to try this here.
Where can I apply it?
Exactly, and that's the best part about it. And to me, that should be everyone's goal in fitness.
Yes.
That should be everybody's goal. When you're at the gym, it's not stand off, not talk to anybody, do my own thing. Like, I'm all about getting in there, getting my workout done. But there's an importance to the socializing part, getting to understand those who are there, their stories, what they're going through, what they need help with, what they don't understand. And you know, and you're different than me. My body type takes things differently, the nutrients differently. I process things differently than you do. So my calorie intake could be a lot higher than yours, just simply because whether my body burns faster or your body burns slower. So I can only give you the principles I know, and then you have to take it and the science behind it, right? But aside from just giving the principles, to be able to motivate them to want to change, because you can sit here all the time and someone complains like, oh, I don't like the way I look. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. And it's like, I can sit here and tell you or take you to the gym over and over again. But at some point, you have to want to change.
Right.
You can't just sit here and say, I want to change. You have to want to change. That wall in life on those obstacles isn't there to keep you from achieving. It's to keep those who kind of want it from those who really want it.
100%.
So,
separating.
Yeah, you can't make somebody want it.
Exactly.
No, it's all self. That's the self-realization, kind of like what I was talking about with me, was I just started noticing things in myself I didn't like. And obviously there's things in me I can't change, and I got to accept those. But the things I can change, those are the things I need to focus on.
What were some of the things that you decided to change, and you're just finally like, all right, I'm fed up with how I'm acting and getting this result?
I would say the biggest thing for me was I would get pretty neglectful of what's going on at home. The best example I can give was with my last job. I grew up with a dad who worked his tail off every day, right? 8 kids. He's working 2-3 jobs. And, I noticed one day, I get frustrated, right? Like, I would think to myself, my dad was never at my football games, right? So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, what's more important than supporting your kids, right? And I get this anger built up inside me. And one day I noticed I was actually playing Xbox at home, right? And it's like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And my dad's alarm goes off and he goes to work, and he didn't come home that night till 9. And then the next day he got up at 3, comes home at 9. And then it clicked in my head. I was like, man, I'm so selfish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my dad's out there working so hard. And anyways, I learned this from him. And so that's how I am. I get so engulfed and involved in what I'm doing, where I'm working, that I start to forget what's going on back at home. And that caused this last year to be really rough, because I would always put work first instead of family first. And when I was doing that, I just noticed that I believe to be angry or to be upset, there's a lot of choice involved in that. It's like your mindset, like we're talking about.
Yeah, you choose to be offended.
Exactly. So I started noticing myself choosing to be angry, right?
Yeah.
So my first thought process to myself was, you don't have to choose that,
Right.
Arias. You can take it and you can feel it for a minute and then get over it and then address the problem, right? So I would say my biggest things was I started noticing that I would feel angry, right? That was probably my biggest things. And then after my car accident, I lost like all motivation for the gym, getting out. I love going hiking all the time. That was one of my big things.
Yeah.
And I just started noticing I started not going out and do these things I enjoy. And the best part about the things I enjoyed wasn't that it was out doing an activity, but when I would go out hiking, it was a learning moment or a teaching moment for myself, or a self-reflection, right? Like, you get up in the mountains, it's quiet, it's just you or the water that's running down the river, and I can just sit there and think to myself, like, what is it I can do better tomorrow than what I did today?
Yeah, no, 100%. Nate talks about that all the time, being out in nature, because he's a big fisherman.
Oh yeah,
the same thing. It's like there's just nothing like it.
It's to me one of the best mountain therapy is what I call it.
Yes.
Getting up in the mountains and just you hike up someplace, and then you can just sit there and look and enjoy the beauty, and then just sit there and think to myself, like, this is, again, like, who am I and who am I wanting to be?
Right.
Those things to me were so important, but then after the accident, I just kind of lost it. And then my wife kind of sparked it all back up for me. And shortly after I had my accident, we're sitting there like, man, like, why are we waiting to get married? Like, and I was on the phone with my uncle one day, and I look up to my uncle a lot, and he's like, what's so different about her?
Yeah.
In a relationship for 4 years, right? And I said, I just sat there thinking for a sec, and I said, every day she just amazes me. She does. As soon as I think, like, wow, like, that's as best as it gets, there's another level, man. And then it starts rubbing off on me, right? So then I tell him, I said, man, she makes me every day, that by the time I go to bed, wanting to know that I was better than when I woke up that morning. she just inspired me to be better. And so you start taking those things, and then you start feeling more like yourself, and then you can get back into your grind. And my big focus is on the person next to me, right? Like, you go throughout life, and if you're not making the lives around you better, what are you doing?
Exactly.
You're not living, right?
Right.
Like, my job here on earth isn't just to come here, make a paycheck, pay my bills,
Right.
and be with my family. There's so much more to that. Like, just think about it. Like, if I'm going to work, right, and there's a coworker there that motivates me, makes me feel special, makes me want to be better.
Yeah.
If we could get that everywhere,
right,
this would be so much better.
Everywhere from everybody.
100%.
Exactly. 100%. So, it's kind of funny in scouts, they teach you to do a good turn daily, but seriously, man,
Yeah.
like that's all it takes is, you're just thinking something nice about somebody, and you go up and just say, that today that happened to me, and that just made my week, man.
Yeah.
No,
it's so real though. It's a similar type of thing. I mean, Aristotle was one of Alexander the Great's mentors, and he actually would say the same type of thing. Like, if you don't help, I don't know the exact quote, I'll have to look it up, but if you don't basically help somebody else lighten their burden, or you help somebody else win or get better that day, you didn't really win the day.
exactly.
It's beautiful. One of my favorite quotes is, "A candle that lights another candle loses nothing." Because
Yes.
that's truly what it's about. It's going around, and it's the Mother Teresa type of result. Giving without expectation of receiving, and magic happens, man. Like, you just get to reap amazing rewards, and it might not be directly from that person or where you gave, but the rewards are coming. It's a lot.
It comes back to what you said earlier. You never know what someone else is going through. So
Right.
you say that one thing to them, they're having the worst day ever, and all of a sudden they're having one of the best days ever.
Yep.
Exactly.
And if you're going around being basically the good version of a coach or a trainer of, hey, you're coaching your guys to be better than you, not holding a couple secrets in the box.
Yeah.
So when it's time, you can flip a couple tricks on them,
Yeah, I get that question. So do you keep things back from your students so they don't beat you up? No,
No
I
way.
want them to beat me up.
Right.
That's my goal.
The student becomes the teacher.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want them to succeed you, to be better than you, to take it to the next level. Because, it wouldn't make any sense to allow your pride or your ego to block yourself from.
Right.
You already went from A to B. So why stop somebody going from B to C now?
Yeah.
Why make them restart? Ooh, I was almost round two, almost spilled twice out of the second episode. Ooh, that would have been the second episode in a row we would have been on. That would have been wild. All right, we're blessed right there.
I think that was probably one of my favorite parts about. So before law enforcement, I was head of operations for a logistics company, right?
Explain what that means for.
So
For me.
for you,
I don't know.
That's okay. I get that question a lot. It's just a fancy term for a lot of shipping and warehousing stuff,
Okay.
right? So I was working with a gentleman who was very successful at a warehousing company. He was the COO, made lots of money, and would start new businesses all the time. And that's kind of what sparked my interest in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was wanting to launch this company called Package Runner, and it started out as just like a same-day small parcel delivery company. So just basically how it worked is if you place your order with one of our customers is Bucked Up.
Okay.
It's a supplement brand.
Supplements. Yeah.
Basically any e-commerce was a good customer for us. But anyways, if you place your order before noon, you'd get it that night, right? That was the whole idea behind it. Or if you're ordering from Las Vegas and the shipping centers in Salt Lake, then it was next day delivery. That's how it started. And then we acquired a box truck company, and we bought a lot of semi trucks. Next thing you know, we have over 100 drivers, right? And that was my favorite part about managing this team was in the trucking world, you get a lot of people who've been through stuff. And they come to work and you can notice when something's off, and I'm one of the managers that likes to get in and be on the ground level with them, and teaching them things that maybe was beyond just work, right?
Yeah.
Like they could come in and be all upset about this stuff going on, and just simply coaching them in ways to help them not just be better at work, but just their attitude in general, the way they thought about life. Because like we said before, life's all about the mindset, how you think or how you approach, or what you're telling yourself you want to do or who you want to become. And a lot of people get caught up in the small stuff.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite part, honestly, about managing, was just a lot of these guys coming through and just to be able to put smiles on their faces and get them excited to come to work. Like, who's excited to come deliver packages? Seriously, like,
For real.
but to get them to come in and be excited and happy to work and to like who they're working for, that was a big deal to me. So I was glad I was able to kind of dip into that with that job.
No, that's huge. That truly is.
Eventually, I wasn't able to work as much with the guys on the ground because as the company grew, I had to take more of an office approach. But definitely my favorite part.
I love it. So what started your transition into law enforcement?
So in college, I got my EMT license. All the other stuff happened, and I had to wait till I turned 18 to become an EMT. State law, I guess. So I got hired on out in Salt Lake as an EMT.
Okay.
And I love being out there helping people, even though a lot of the calls are not that exciting. Some of them are, you get to see a lot of blood and guts, but some of them, sometimes it's like you're a counselor almost, you're just showing up to help people get through what they feel like is an emergency. But the company itself that I worked for wasn't the best. Salt Lake contracts out to a company. So the fire department doesn't run the ambulance crews, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And it paid me $10.50 an hour, I'll be honest. Doing CPR on little kids, adults, and being paid $10.50 an hour to me wasn't good, especially where I'm barely paying the bills at home and everyone at work is grumpy, so I'm coming home grumpy.
Right. Seeing traumatic things all the time and
wears out on you.
Right.
I bet.
So I decided to leave and work in a clinic setting because the pay was a lot better. I got a $6 an hour raise, doing way less crazy stuff. Literally all I was doing most of the days was pricking fingers and collecting blood samples. And then I did construction for a little while. And my wife was managing, I don't know if you know Fizz, but the soda pop stuff. So she was managing 6 Fizz stores.
Okay.
The owner of those Fizz stores is the owner of the package runner that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
And I'd start going to meetings, and that's what got me intrigued in all the business stuff. The Excel spreadsheets get me super excited. I get goosebumps over Excel spreadsheets. I thought back in high school, one of the only things I was good at was math. So I thought to myself, man, why can't I be good at something that's going to help me in life?
Right.
But then math ends up being one of the best things.
It's the one that you need it.
But anyways, so I'm working days and nights. I'm flying in and out of town. I spent, we got to deal with Amazon down in Phoenix. And so right after Thanksgiving, I remember I flew out on Friday to have a crew ready by Monday. So I got to get trucks set up. I got to get them on the insurance. We got to get a lot set up, like just this huge span of things. So I'm there for a while.
Yeah.
I fly home and end up having to fly back, and I spent almost a month down there. And I just started noticing that being away from home just made the work was good, right? And I'm successful here, but if I'm not successful at home,
right,
then you know what? It's not worth. It wasn't worth what I was losing, I guess you could say.
I can agree with you there.
And then towards peak season, so Christmas time this last year, we're just getting hammered day in, day out. I'm working all night long, doing interviews during the day, trying to get our staff up. And I'm just working these crazy weeks. And then in January, I actually was driving to work one day. Was very tired, and one of the tires in the back blew, and I caught me off guard. And because I was sleepy, it took me right off the road, right? And that kind of took me back to my accident back out of college, right? So I started thinking to myself, right, what am I doing, right? And one of our trucks got in an accident. When our truck's in an accident, a manager has to respond, right? And I get there and I start talking to the highway patrolman. I'm wearing my old ambulance hoodie or jacket, right? He's like asking me all these questions, and he's like, "Yeah, we're hiring." And I was like, and I always told my life to be a Davis County Sheriff medic, right? Because then I can do medical stuff and police work, right?
Gotcha.
Because I love the medical work. And anyways, he tells me they're hiring, and I'm like, man, well, how much you pay? And he tells me, and I was like, damn, I can pay my bills off that, right? So I started thinking to myself,
excuse me,
maybe this is what I want to do. And then I remembered, sorry, it's kind of a long story, but then I remember back when I was a kid, my great grandfather was the first fire chief down in Las Vegas.
Really?
He was a fire chief for 30 years down there, and they've got this memorial set up for him. And I remember when I was a kid going down there, and I'm standing in front of this memorial, and I just get the goosebumps. And I just was thinking, a lot of things going through my mind. We go and see his grave, and I start crying, tell my mom how much I missed him, even though I never met him. And many years go by, and I start thinking back to that moment, and I realized why it touched me so much is my great grandfather. You know, this was back in 1924 to like 1954, I believe, were the 30 years that he was chief down there. And you know, almost a century later, right? It's like your great grandson sees this, and I just think to myself, man, like what a legacy this man leaves behind for generations and generations, and maybe the people that he affected in their families, right? The lives maybe that he had saved, and they go to that memorial too, and they think, man, like how awesome is that? And so then I start thinking to myself, you know, Arise, you know, what's your legacy? Yes. What is it that I'm going to leave behind that my great grandkids from now are going to go, man, my great grandfather was awesome. Yeah. He helped people, he motivated people, and he helped make the world a better place. So for me, getting into law enforcement is, you know, there's a common term, you know, you serve and you protect, which is a big part of it for me. And then the other part of it is, I'm not saying I want a memorial or anything with my name on it, but if every day I can go to work and then go home just knowing I left the world in a little bit better of a place, and that when I start having kids and they start seeing those same things, and maybe they get that same feeling that I got when I would visit my great-grandfather's memorial, to me, that's success. That you can have, like I said, you have all the money in the world, but what you leave behind is the powerful portion of this. Right. So for me to get back into the emergency service section was more about being able to get out there, help the people that are in need, and just leave a good print on the world, like what we've been talking about. You know, if you're not out there making the world better for those around you or making their lives better, then what are you doing? Right.
Could you imagine if your great grandfather had a podcast that he was on?
I know, right?
Yeah. Listen to it now. How awesome would that be?
That really was
so your great grandkids are going to have the ability to hear you say this.
Yeah, that's awesome to me. You know, we were online actually this last year on our anniversary out in California, and we visited my grandfather's memorial on the way out there. And I get on Google and I'm trying to find like stories about him, right? Like I'm trying to dig up research. I'm trying to find stuff and calls he responded on and pictures of him. And on eBay, like out of all places, it's like, you know, Harold Case, Fire Chief Las Vegas. And I clicked on it. And there's these 2 original photographs from like when they got their very first fire truck, the very first 2 on the crew. And then one of him in his dress, his full Class A uniform. And, you know, I'm obviously I bought them, but it's crazy to me how these little pieces start falling together, you know, and it just inspires me that much more. You know, it's like somewhere in Illinois these pictures are, you know, and someone's selling them, and someone's out there, and I'm looking and I'm trying to find stuff, and I couldn't find a whole lot of stories. My grandpa's actually in town this weekend, and he sent me a bunch of pictures we're going to go through.
Okay, awesome.
He sent me a bunch. He got like 20 of them, like actually fighting fires, and one of them's a cat he's holding that he saved out of a tree or kind of thing, you know. So he's going to go through and tell me the stories behind them. I'm actually going to type up a paper about it, just because I think a lot of people like we said, they get stuck on the small stuff, and so if people can sit there and just go, you know, what's your legacy? What is it you're going to leave behind for the generations to come, or how are you going to make the world a better place? And that's a big story of mine to lead me into why I want to do what I do and who I want to be.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe some people might read and just look at it as a story, but I hope that, you know, it can inspire at least a few.
Yeah, no, that's going to be incredible, Ross. There's going to be a lot of listeners that are going to take value from that. It's cool to see, just because it's like we just keep getting fantastic stories of just people. You know, it's beautiful to see it. Everybody has their own story.
Definitely.
You know, everybody has their own background, their own demons they have to face, their own challenges they have to overcome, and their own different goals. But what I like about what you said about challenging yourself, like, okay, what legacy am I going to leave? It's so beautiful to see, because most people have to massively, like, really get out of their comfort zone to leave any type of legacy.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to become the best version of yourself anyways to leave a legacy. So it's a good thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. And I hope more people are willing to get clear on what they would like to leave for their kids, for their grandkids, and go after it. I mean, the time's going to go by either way.
Exactly.
So 5 years, if the goal takes 5 years, 5 years is coming and going fast. I mean, we were in high school 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Boom, and it was like that, just like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people say, the growth comes from the uncomfortable circumstances or
100%,
situations, right? So for people to get out there and really find what it is that they're here, I believe everyone has a purpose, right? But in order to find out what that purpose is, you got to be in those uncomfortable situations. You got to be put in situations where you got to think your way out of it. But then at the end of the day, you got to also want to learn and educate yourself. And kind of back to what we talked about when we met several months ago was, when you take time to read books about how to improve yourself, right? Like food for the brain, right? Like just ways to increase your knowledge. So then you can then pass that on to somebody else or put yourself in a better mindset to achieve more or give more.
Right. Well, no, it's huge. I mean, you got to look at it from the perspective too. If, of course, anybody could write a book, but if you're understanding who is writing the book, you're make sure it's a credible source. It's somebody that is good to speak on the subject, on the topic, and you're reading a book. I mean, let's say it took that person years to collect all that knowledge and write it out in the book, and you can read it in a couple days, weeks, even a month, and it took that person years, and you're gaining all of that information. And then, just like you said at the beginning, you can take all the gold pieces and really just glean from it,
And the cool part about today too is a lot of people talk about how I don't got time to read.
Right.
I'm working all the time, and when I'm home, and I spend time with my family, all these things, and kind of excuses, right? That's the best part about today, dude. Technology, you literally can pull up on your phone. There's millions of apps out there you can pull up, whether it's going to be, whether you're listening to podcasts, listening to books, whatever the sources may be. A big thing for me when I was weightlifting was motivational stuff on YouTube, right? Like,
okay,
it's got Rob Bailey playing in the background and speakers going.
I'm all about that stuff.
Yeah, so that's the best part about today is you don't need extra time. You just got to find when it is that you can apply it, right? Your drive to work, your drive home from work, or maybe you're making dinner and you got your headphones in, or you tell your Alexa to do, read you something.
I laugh when people say I don't have time, because it's not time, it's priority.
Yes.
They need to change the work time with priority.
What is the biggest thing with people is if you want something bad enough, you will make time for it.
Right.
If you really want to learn and progress in life, and if you really want to go out there and motivate people, you will find ways to do this.
Yeah.
If you kind of want it, maybe you'll get a little bit. And then if you don't really, but you say you do, then you won't get any progress.
And you'll make an excuse.
Right? Like, I don't have time. Exactly. That's what I've been telling myself about the gym. I don't have time. Really, it's just an excuse.
No, I went through a little slacking era for myself there, So it happens. But you just gotta hop back on the horse, and then it starts taking off, and you're like, all right, I'm glad I hopped on.
That was one of the biggest things too with my last job was I totally lost sight on personal fitness stuff, right? We just talked about the benefits of going to the gym and eating good. You feel better, you wake up better. And then throughout the day, you have more energy, all these great benefits, right?
Right.
I put on so much weight at my last job. I weighed 205, which for me was a lot of weight, right?
Yeah.
And then I started the police academy and I'm down to 175 and I feel way better. Waking up at police academy is not so bad, you just start to notice those things and it makes a big difference.
Right. Can I ask you a personal question about going into law enforcement?
Go for it.
Do you mind, how do you feel right now? Because it's kind of like a gray area, I would say, law enforcement. From what I understand, and I could be completely wrong, this is just an assumption off of just talking hearsay, is that people aren't diving into lining up to go be policemen right now.
Yeah,
a lot of
no,
law enforcement because there's a lot of tension.
you're totally right, 100%. There's a lot of agencies that are hurting for police officers, and it's not that they don't have candidates to pick from. You know, for example, at Layton when we went, there was over 100 applicants. They tested and interviewed at least 20, 25, or I think there was 50 or something that totally tested, and then they only picked 2, right? So it's not that they don't have people, but it's the quality of people that are coming through, because you see all these body cams online, right?
Yeah.
And then officers going through all these prosecutions and stuff that they have to deal with, or they're getting pressed charges on this or that. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is people, they get online, they see these things on social media, they see there's a danger to it, but then there's a lot more you put on the line when you go out there. So I feel like they struggle on finding good candidates for a lot of those reasons, is the way people have put it on social media, or, you know, cops are just out there to get you or to get their quota filled, you know, or the police department's just another way for the government to make money, kind of a thing. And no, I definitely believe that there's a lot of people that, or a lot of agencies that struggle on getting good people in because of the stigma that's been set through social media. There's a lot of tension there because it's, now you got cops out there who second guess themselves, right? And then they get put in these situations where, you know, because when you leave the academy and you go out on the streets, like, and you leave your department every day, they trust you to make the right decision, right? They trust you in taking someone's life when it is necessary, right? You have that power, right? You have that training. So when cops get out there and they get in those tense situations, they hesitate to draw their weapon, right? And then in the end, they end up losing their life, or somebody else, an innocent life. Or it's the other way around, right? They get too skittish, right? And then they're too quick to draw and too quick to shoot. And then that's where you get all your bad shoots. And then the social media devours those over and over, and they beat on them and they beat on them. And all of those things, I think, play a big factor in those who are entering law enforcement or choosing to go that route. At least that's my thought process.
Right. What do you have to go through, like, mentally when you're like going through situations multiple times on daily, you know, tense situations or possible tense situations?
That's the kind of the unique part about law enforcement is you're going to respond to a call where your adrenaline is so high, things are pumping, things are moving so fast, and then as soon as that call's over and your heartbeat's still beating like crazy, you gotta go to the next call, you know, and the next one's like something small, or whether it's just pulling somebody over, right? But then you have this mental intensity going on inside your head, this heightened senses where maybe you start to overread things, or you get skittish of things. And a lot of cops, you know, if they go through one scenario and then they're in the next and they see similar things happening, they instantly start to think, oh, this is just like last time, right? So as far as mental preparation goes, you just kind of have to understand that you're going to be put in these really high, intense situations, and then there's going to be a big dip, and there's going to be a dip, and then you're going to get another one. It's just back and forth all day long. So just kind of preparing yourself for that, and then just preparing yourself for the gruesome part of the job, right? Like the first time you see a dead body, right? Or the first time you got to do CPR on somebody. Luckily for me, I went through a lot of that out in Salt Lake. There's gonna be a lot of new stuff I'm gonna encounter and challenges, of course, but mentally preparing yourself for all of those situations kind of comes as you go through them. But they, in the academy, they have us doing a lot of scenario stuff right now. So they put us in scenarios this last week where we were doing building clearing, right, inside of an actual high school using sim guns. And the sim guns shoot these little plastic bullets at you. And they hurt. You know, so you're going through these, you're clearing room by room, your blood's pressure, you know, you're just going crazy, right? And you see somebody and then shooting goes on and stuff. So you get those high intensity situations simulated, right? And then we go back to school, right? And at school we're doing traffic stop situations too, where we're pulling someone over for a brake tail light, and literally that's all it is. You write them a citation and leave. But then the next group goes, and next thing you know, they pull a gun on them, or they jump out of the car and they start running, So the academy does a really good job about putting you in those uncomfortable circumstances early in a simulated experience. So that way, when you do hit the streets, because all the situations they put you in are actual things that have happened to people at post. So they're just reenacting the call there, right? So they put you through things that you're most likely going to be going through, so you can kind of be prepared, so you can make your mistakes there, right? On
instead of live.
Yes, exactly.
For sure.
And it definitely helps, because if you looked at our scenario day one, if you were there, you would see a lot of uncomfortable people, right?
Yeah.
But then we did scenarios yesterday, in fact, and a lot of the classes opening up, they're communicating better, they're asking better questions, and they're starting to notice things, because your head's on a swivel, right? You're watching a lot of things, body movement, bulges in pockets, right? So they do a really good job about that. So I think that's a good mental preparation for the ups and the downs portion. And then I think the rest of it's just kind of putting yourself in the situations in your head, right? And just repetition, like, hey, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. Or if this happens, this is what I'm going to do.
Right. What would you say you've took the most from the police academy so far that you can transfer into daily life, that anybody could take advantage of in a good way and be better in their life for it?
Honestly, the biggest thing for me is going to be communication. They put a big emphasis on communication in the academy. And in my personal life, I struggle kind of with communication, right? Like, just small examples, whether it's between a sibling or my spouse or whatever, if I'm trying to say something, but I say it the wrong way, or I'm too bold or something like that. In fact, I actually just got a book to start reading to kind of help with communication skills, because I've noticed myself, sometimes I'm quick to speak, right?
Gotcha.
Think before you speak, right?
That's me too. That's why, to be 100% honest, that's why I hang around Nate a lot, just because
Because you don't talk.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he's just speaking, dude. So when he does speak, it's good stuff, right?
And that's the thing is it's like I'll look over and he's just listening. I'm like, oh shit, okay, I got to just listen again. It's like, stop, 2 ears, 1 mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen twice as much as you speak. But
I like that.
So I really I try to supplement myself with the right type of people, the right types of friends that are really going to help me be the best me. Because that's the same thing. It's like just a gun. And then it's like, oh shit, maybe I should have said that. I should have done that. But it's like I could check my balances if you got the right people, right? Just like the right football team.
Exactly. That's probably one of the best things too with the scenario training is you start talking to people, and one of the ones we went through was a death notification where you have to go tell someone that a loved one passed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just start watching people and how they give that information, and if they say the wrong thing, or you start watching the people that are receiving that information, and sometimes what you say will agitate them, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's rude or offensive, and so being mindful of the words you use, how you use them. And then, like, I love what you just said is, we got 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? A lot of times people just need you to listen.
Right.
A lot of people, I'm this way for sure. I know, because I do this all the time at home, is sometimes my wife's going off about a problem, right? And my instant reaction is, I'm going to fix it, right? Like, let me give you advice. Let me fix this. Let me help you. But really, all she wanted was someone to just sit down and listen. So that's something I've been really trying to focus on, is listening to something. And a lot of people, you can kind of get cues on if they do want feedback or if they just want to vent, right? So you can take that anywhere, man. Like, whether it's at home or with friends, like these says, just here.
Communication.
Honestly, so this one's it's called the 5 love languages, because
hey, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a very great one.
Me and my wife speak on different communication levels, right? So,
dude, this is cool. You have to tell me what you think. Have you finished already?
No, I just started.
Let me know what you think once you finish, because it'll be interesting to see if you and your wife are going through that together. Like, figuring each other's styles out in
Yeah.
communication. It's cool.
It's funny because I just was reading through a few of them, and I start to, I'm reading through, I'm like, oh, that kind of sounds like my wife. And I start reading, I'm like, I start noticing, oh my gosh, she went out and got me these things to show that she loved me, right?
Yeah.
Because to her, that's like her expressing her love, right? And sometimes my first initial reaction is like, why are you spending money, right?
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, she's trying to show her
what she
love.
wants.
Exactly. Or maybe that's exactly, maybe in return. So I think for me, that's one of my big struggles because I'm a fixer, right? Someone wants to come and talk to me and I want to help them through a problem. It's kind of back to that coaching thing, is you kind of coaching people up, right? And motivating. And sometimes I'm sure I drive a lot of people nuts with this, but I get kind of over motivated or over inspiring because I'm like just trying to get them encouraged and to get the goosebumps and to feel the way I feel or how passionate I feel.
Yeah.
And in reality, I just need to learn how she communicates. And so I think that was just a step I was taking recently because I just feel like that's an area. When I look at myself in the mirror, that's one of the areas that I struggle with and I want to fix.
That's badass, bro. That's awesome. Good on you for doing that.
Yeah.
That's big. Be able to take those next steps,
Hopefully it's as good as people say it is, because I actually got it from my kid dad in school that gave it to me. Because he was just talking about things that he was going through in life, and he's like, man, this helped me so much. And I was like, oh man, like a lot of marriages and relationships fail because of communication.
Yes.
And then you sit there and think, if you want it, you'll make time for it and you'll figure out a way, right? And I love my wife and our life we're building. And so going out and doing things to just try and understand her better or how to communicate better, for me, that was just a big deal.
Yeah.
Because
at the end of the day, it's an investment.
Exactly.
If you're going to spend your life with another person, you better figure out how to best cooperate with that person. It would be like, let's put it in football terms. It would be like Tom Brady not hanging out with his receivers and figuring out how their footwork is, how they run their routes. It wouldn't make sense. He's trying to win a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
People are trying to have a successful, positive, influential relationship. And most people don't have that goal these days because they don't know how to set it.
Exactly.
So good on you, boss, for taking those steps just to work towards a better lifestyle. At the end of the day, it's for you too.
Exactly.
So it's a win-win there. Good on you.
A lot of people get in difficult situations and just give up, and every relationship's going to hit a rough road. And when it does, a lot of people give up because whether they don't know how or they just don't want to invest that. And that's just one thing about me. It's like, you got to go out there and invest yourself for the things you want.
Right. 100%.
Definitely.
Oh man, I absolutely love it. Well, that said, do you guys?
I do have a question. I have a police question.
Go for it.
This will. I think this will help a lot of people. You pull me over. How do you want me to react when you're walking up to the car? How do you
honestly,
want me?
That's a great question.
What makes you feel most comfortable?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in our scenario training, right, we are pulling people over, right, and we start walking to the car, and if you got all blacked out windows in the back, I can't see what's going on in the back. Honestly, just rolling them down so as I walk by and I can just see through them easy. That's just comforting on our end, right? But then as we're coming up to you, it's anytime your hands leave the steering wheel and I can no longer see them, that throws a red flag in my mind, right?
Potential danger zone.
Exactly. People go to grab the registration out of their glove box, but what else is kept in the glove box?
Or potential gun.
Exactly, a weapon or some sort of thing that can harm me, my partner, or an innocent life. So honestly, just, and sometimes people complain because the cop pulls them over and they're not very nice, right?
Yeah.
I just say the first thing is just being respectful. Every time I've been pulled over, that's my biggest thing, is I'm just very respectful. I keep my hands in plain sight. I don't go fumbling around with stuff. I'm not messing around my phone. I just keep my hands where they can see them. And I'm not doing anything stupid like jumping out of the car or anything like that, right? Because again, they'll start to throw the red flags, and we're trained when we see red flags that there's potential for danger, right?
Right.
And it can send mixed signals. So honestly, just being respectful, keeping your hands in plain sight, and just, yeah, honestly, that'd be probably about it. Because in our scenarios, if we're coming up to a car and their hands are just doing whatever and things, it's like instantly you're just on high alert for the rest of that call, right? Even if you don't need to be, it just puts you on the edge, where you're just waiting and waiting. Because you get trained to pick up on those things. So then you can pick up the pre-indications of what's going to happen.
Right.
See, my first inclination would be, like, if I get pulled over, is to grab my registration, grab my license, get it all ready for when they get there.
Yeah,
so you're saying wait till you say, hey,
Yes.
Can you show me this?
Yeah, like we'll pull you over, we'll tap on the glass, you roll your window down, or you have it rolled down already. And at that point, when we're like, hey, do you have your license and registration? You're like, yeah, it's in my glove box. And then I'll say, okay, can you grab that for me? And if you do have a weapon in there, like I conceal weapons carry, right? So I will typically have a gun either on me or in my car.
Oh.
I simply just say, hey, just so you know, I do have my concealed carry and I am carrying right now. And then they'll say, where's your gun at? Typically, if it's on me, it's on my front end, right? Mm-hmm. So I let them know. And then sometimes they'll be like, okay, just don't reach for that. Just keep your hands out where I can see them. And sometimes they might ask to take the weapon until you're done and look back. It's no big deal, right? But if you open that glove box to get your registration, there's just a gun there.
There.
Just be open and be honest and let them know that it's there. And then when they ask for it and you reach and grab it, that they're going to be watching in there. So, I mean, if you do have something, I just let them know right away. Because if they see that and your hand's right next to it, again, that red flag goes off, right? So, yeah, I would seriously just wait till they come up to the window when they get there. And they'll say, hey, do you have your license registration? And you're like, yeah, my license in my back pocket, my registration's in the glove box. And they'll ask you to get it. And then if you're like me and you usually carry, let them know right away. So that way, when they see the weapon, or if they see the weapon, that they're not instantly thinking the worst, right? And worst case scenario, seriously, is they take it for right now, they unload it, and you put it in your trunk and you just leave, right? It's there for you. They're not going to take it from you as long as you have it legally, right? I just being careful with where you're moving, how you're doing things, and if you're not wearing your seatbelt, don't try and throw your seatbelt on last second, right? Like, because again, that's just a quick furtive movement, right? Yeah. So I guess that would be my response. Just hands on the steering wheel. Don't be shifting around in your seat. Just wait for them to get to the window, and then just let them know where you keep the documents that they asked for.
Cool. That's helpful.
Yeah, no, that really is. Will help. Well, it helped me already, so help a decent amount for sure.
It'll definitely make us feel more comfortable as we're approaching.
Yeah.
Well, good. You have any questions, Nate?
No.
All right. That's it. Corey, any more?
Good.
All right. Any last gold nuggets? Any last words to say for our listeners before you wrap things up?
Honestly, just I guess the biggest thing I want people to take away from this is we're out here to help uplift those around us. We're out here to make people not just better people, but want to be better people 100%. By inspiring, motivating, and living the way you preach, So I guess the biggest thing for me is listeners to take away that do one good turn daily, right? As the scouts would say, right? It only takes one person.
Yes.
It takes one person to change the world. So.
No, I absolutely love it. Nate, anything last words to wrap it up?
All good.
All right, all good. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, you guys, and always listening. As always, coming to you raw. I got you.
Still rolling?
No, we're not recording. What's up with that?